Hello, fellow Sublime Text fanatics. ODAT Nerd here with the devlog for Devember Day 10 and exciting news. I think we have some network code going. Now, between the end of the devlog last night and the start of the stream tonight, what did I actually do related to this project? Ponder long and hard about the horrible intricacies of how the async system in C Sharp works. And this is one of those things, I don't know, maybe I'm dense. I'm reading a lot of stuff. I find things that are for .NET 4. I find things that are for .NET 2. Some of them say it's using threads. Some of them say it's not using threads. Some of them say it should be using await. Other things say it shouldn't be using await. The latest versions of the .NET things say I should be using something completely different and not this. I think. I don't know. What the hell is going on? So I decided, screw it, let's just see what happens. So tonight in the stream, what we did was modify the client or the server code, the binary server, the code in the C sharp code to be able to transmit messages back. And it's still just a simple echo server, but it gets a message and sends it back. And in order to do that, we have set up a system whereby there's a concurrent queue because I think there might be threads involved and I want it to be thread safe. When you want to send a message, you drop it in that queue, and if there's not already a send in process, a send starts. If there is a send in process, nothing happens. And then the async send code, every time it gets called, if there's something for it to send, because it's still sending from a previous time, or it finished, but there's a message to send now that has been added to the queue or whatever, then another send starts, and the send automatically tapers off and stops itself when there's nothing else to send. And with that in place, we totally had some echo action going between the client and the server. Now, I also made some changes to how messages are encoded prior to that, because in the client code on the Python side, what we were doing is encoding the message as just a byte array, and then because sending it is easier if it's one whole byte array, when you enqueued the thing, it would create a new byte array that was the size of the other one plus 4 bytes, stick the length in, and then copy the or slice copy or however Python works that the actual message body in and queue that whole block up. That's kind of dumb, but it was a stopgap measure to get that going. Now in the sending code on the C sharp side, it is also a good idea. I find it's easier to follow if there's just a block of data that is literally all of the data for a message. So the encoders have been modified so that when you encode a message, it automatically returns a block of data that includes its length. Now, the decoders still assume that they don't have a length because the read code does need to pluck those 4 bytes off and then continue reading the message from there. So it doesn't have a continuous stream necessarily to devote to that particular task. So we did that, and we moved on to also add an extra message type, just of type a message of type message, if you will, which is exactly like an error message, except it doesn't contain an error code. And that's just so that you can send textual messages back and forth for testing purposes. Now, could have been done by just saying that any error message with an error code of 0 isn't an error, but we need to be able to create messages at some point, so might as well try that now. And with all of that in place, we finished off the stream by taking that network code that was in our network test, rolling it into our plugin, and modifying test client. So now, if you remember way back on day 1, uh, when I showed you the code that I had to start with, where you could start up, hit the little plugin command, type some text, and it would echo it to the .NET server and pop the text back up on the screen. We have gotten ourselves back after 10 days to that point where you type some text in and it pops up in a dialog box, except that instead of being a simple text that's written to the other side, it's using our message format. It's using threads and selects to be able to do good asynchronous I/O. We can do partial sends, which the other code did not do. in many regards much more robust. Now, there is still a little bit more to do there because there's no way currently to get the notification that a message has actually arrived from the other side, which presumably something on our end is going to care about. So that's a task that we have to do. But the plan for tomorrow is to actually go into the full on planning process of how the package itself is going to work. Now, we're going to have to create a build system, obviously. How are we going to configure that build system? How is it going to know what to do? How's it going to get data to the remote end? How's it going to run the command? How's it going to get data back to us? That's all the kind of thing that we want to flesh out for tomorrow, at least in some regard. In order to go forward, we need to know exactly what we're dealing with, and then we can decide from there how to proceed. We also do need to modify the client code in the Python stuff to be able to trigger a notification, but I think that'll be fairly simplistic to do. Fingers crossed, famous last words, all that jazz. So we'll see what happens, but that is all I have for this devlog, which is only 6 minutes long, and I'm kind of racing through it because it is 10:03, and these things take a little bit of time to get on up to YouTube after re-encoding. So we're going to go ahead and say thanks for watching this dev stream. Things are getting real excited. Exciting. We're getting really close to being able to perform some kind of remote build after only 10 days. If nothing else, we've created a plugin that can talk to an arbitrary server process. So that's already, I think, a good learning event so far. Let's continue the learning on into Devember day 11 coming tomorrow. But until then, have a sublime day.